To know where the internet is going, you have to know where it's been. Every episode will examine the sites, terms, and personalities that have defined the online world. So strap on your chrono belts, time cadets. It's time to take a trip to the Old Wide Web. Episode 7. So long. Thanks for all the memes. Hi, I'm Bill Meeks, and welcome to another episode of the Old Wide Web. I'm here to teach you the history of the internet. Whether you're a newbie or an old tech head, I'm going to give you an overview of how the internet evolved into what it is today. Now, just a warning, we try and keep it clean here on the Old Wide Web, but sometimes history is a little bit naughty, a little off color. I'd say even childishly indecent. There won't be any cursing or anything, but we will be using a frank junior high term for a certain aspect of the male anatomy. If this offends you, I apologize, and I'd suggest you fast forward about 15 minutes to listen to our tribute to Douglas Adams. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Still with us? Great. Now let's find out about the secret origin of one of the first internet memes. Yes, this week we'll be talking about Mr. T Ate My Balls. So open up MS Paint and get ready to learn all about it. You know what an internet meme is, right? Think lolcat, Sag Keanu Reeves, Scumbag Steve, Rage Comics, etc. Basically, these image-based memes start with a blank canvas of an image, and users add their own creative text to make a joke. While memes are more popular today than ever, they actually got their start in the late 90s when the internet was still relatively new for a lot of people. Possibly the first, but definitely the most notorious, was the Ate My Balls meme. If you've never heard about the Ate My Balls meme, it was created by then college student Neil Patel on his college web server. I got the chance to talk with him about it, and here's how he describes it for someone who's never seen it before.
We pulled down some pictures from the internet, either from TV shows or scans of comic books or whatever, and drew our own little thought bubbles and captions in them. You know, one of them, Mr. T, looks like he's thinking about something. He says, I sure could go for some balls right now. And then another one, you know, where he's attacking somebody, he's saying, give me your balls, fool.
Like most strokes of offensive brilliance, it all got started when a couple of kids got bored.
So where I was when we were putting this together, you know, I was my first year at school, living in a dorm, right? It was kind of like Lord of the Flies. We were all a bunch of guys, you know, freshmen, sophomores, living, you know, on the same floor, and things would tend to get a little crazy as exams come around and people need a break and whatnot. And so I guess at one point somebody was tossing a football around and hit the exit sign on our floor, and realized that there's a little flap there, you can take the glass out. And so that's when somebody pulled that down, scratched off the exit sign, and drew on there, you know, Mr. T Ate My Balls. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed. We started seeing drawings on everybody, you know, different people's whiteboards, and, you know, little scenes of somebody sitting at a table eating some Mr. T Ate My Balls cereal and so on. And just total random happenstance that somebody would have thought of that and drawn that up. Atavistic mayhem is really where it grew from.
But things are seldomly created in a vacuum, and the quickly growing internet provided a large amount of inspiration for Patel.
Some of my favorite sites at that time, I can't really remember a lot of them. One of the ones that does stick out was the Beavis and Butthead Encyclopedia. Not sure if you've seen that one before. It was a website where, you know, Beavis and Butthead was a popular MTV cartoon at the time, and they had this online dictionary, basically, or an encyclopedia with the different words and their own little articles and explanations about each one. You know, that's kind of the stuff that I spent most of my time browsing around for on the internet, was just silly comic kind of stuff. Or Yahoo was real popular at the time for, you know, it was as far as getting news and information about stocks and all that kind of stuff. That was pretty much the place to go at the time.
Mr. T Ate My Balls was a pretty funny idea, but no idea is any good without decent execution. Neil, tell us a little bit about the making and publishing of the site.
So as far as making and publishing the site, students at our school had Unix accounts where, they showed us how to create our own web pages or our home page in our own home directories. And so I had my home page and then, created this as a sub-page below that. And really, it involved me and another guy sitting around one night and just finding pictures of Mr. T on the internet and saying, hey, we could make a web page out of this. Well, why not do it? Let's play around with it a little bit. And we pulled out PaintShop Pro and coded up some HTML and put this stuff on there, and that's pretty much where it was. I think I still have all the original code for it and the content, or it's somewhere in the Internet Wayback Machine, and I could probably just pull it out of there if I really wanted to start it up again.
It's always nice to hear that somebody has a good backup strategy, but the largest backup of the site is in the minds of the people who got to see it when the site went live. But how did it go from a small joke among friends to one of the most famous humor sites of the early Internet?
So after we first put together the site, this was back in the days where the, quote, search engines were really internet directories. So you would submit a URL to the particular site like Yahoo, give it a category, and so on. And that's essentially what we did, was we submitted it to a bunch of different search engines, and it kind of grew from there. I guess people randomly stumbled across it, and then people started to create their own. I think at one point in the Yahoo listing, there were over 200 Ate My Balls web pages in there, and there was an internet Ate My Balls web ring and so on. And it was really kind of amazing how this all kind of grew. When I first put it up, right, I had my email address on there so people could send me emails and comment on it. And I got some little nasty grams and so on from people, and other people, were commending us on the humor. And what I would do is I would print out each of these emails and kind of tape it up onto my door. And I think I had about half my door covered at one point. So it was really kind of interesting to just watch it grow from really an evening or a late night project with another buddy to what a couple hundred people out there must have thought was hilarious and created their own.
But this was hosted on your college's servers, right? Was there any sort of backlash from the administration?
For as popular as the site supposedly was, I don't recall ever having a run-in with network administration folks or anyone at school. Honestly, I don't even know if they really knew about it. I never got an email from, some sysadmin or anything like that. And, this is probably because in a large part, a lot of this stuff wasn't even regulated yet, or they didn't necessarily monitor every little thing that people do the way schools and institutions might do now. So we kind of were able to get by and go somewhat unnoticed, or if people noticed it, they chuckled and they looked the other way.
But the concept of ball eating didn't stop with Patel's sites. Dozens of sites sprang up featuring characters like Kenny from South Park, Hillary Clinton, and Homer Simpson. Neil, how did you feel about all the copycats?
As far as people creating their own Ate My Balls sites, I thought it was pretty amazing. I thought it was really kind of funny to see something that we created grow so large. Some of them were good, some of them were in rather poor taste, but it was hilarious. It was amazing to see something like that just grow.
Mr. T Ate My Balls is still available on the Wayback Machine, and I've linked to it in the show notes, by the way. But it's been offline now for quite a while.
Mr. T Ate My Balls went offline probably a couple of years after I graduated from school. It definitely went down off of the school servers because my account went away shortly after I left school. I think I transferred it to GeoCities, and then I had it hosted on my own website or on my own server at home for a while. But as I, take down and reconfigure my web server for my own website, at some point I just forgot to bring Mr. T back online, and I guess it just stayed that way.
Are you ever curious what happens to proto-internet celebrities like Neil after their 15 minutes of fame are up? Where's Neil now, and what new developments in internet memery have caught his attention over the years?
So some of my favorite memes, the one that really stands out is the Mahir Kagri, I Kiss You guy. That one was rather humorous. I remember the All Your Base Are Belong to Us. Nowadays there's so many little random things that pop up on the internet. I can't even keep track of everything, and I probably missed about a decade's worth of them too. So, but yeah, Mahir was just funny because it was kind of like it was his online sort of personal ad or whatever you want to call it. It was just kind of funny that somebody would post that and set it all up. So the involvement in the site hasn't really followed me around per se. My brother-in-law, when he found out what it was, he was bragging to all of his friends. And some other people would bring it up from time to time. And that's pretty much been about it. Never really comes up at a job interview or anything like that. And I would probably prefer it stays that way since I'm a corporate drone now, working at a tech company, managing a team of engineers. Being in a leadership position, this is probably not something that you want to be the thing people know you for. Though, it is kind of funny in that, you would think that somebody in a management position would come up with this, but, when you're at work and you have to be professional, it's not something you really want brought up. I've been doing this for about 6 months. Before that, I was a technical lead and an engineer. In school, I was studying computer engineering, and that's how I got into the web page creation and all that. And I still do some web projects and stuff on the side, but this is more on the computer design and engineering side of stuff.
Mr. T Ate My Balls, while not exactly family-friendly, was one of the first examples of the viral nature of the internet. What started as a college prank grew into a comedic movement across the world and inspired a ton of rip-off and original humorous sites. So next time you're chuckling at that latest lolcat or rage comic, take a moment and thank Neil Patel, internet meme pioneer. No balls were harmed in the making of this story. We promise.
Meeks Mixed Media offers video, animation, web design and programming, motion graphics. If you have a project involving audio, video, or the web, Meeks Mixed Media can help you. Need individualized attention from a media pro with over 5 years of professional experience? Click on Hire Us at meeksmixedmedia.com or send an email to contact@meeksmixedmedia.com to get started. Meeks Mixed Media. Welcome to now.
Welcome back. We're going to keep the comedic theme going here as we honor the anniversary of the death of not only one of the best comedic minds of the past 50 years, but a lover of technology and predictor of how the internet would evolve. But before we get to that, let's listen to some of your first online memories in a segment I like to call Memory Allocation.
Downloading memory. Processing. Processing complete. Dispense memory.
Hi, it's Bill again. I know you weren't expecting to hear my voice, but as I said last week, a lot of people send in text submissions for memory allocation, so I'm going to read a few of them for you now. Username FreeDumbFiDur writes, "My earliest online memory is playing Dungeons & Dragons at a friend's house on a BBS. I forget the name of the system. The time frame is a few years before the internet came into being. I'm talking back in the days when you had to manually dial the computer you wanted to connect with." Next up is username Bluebox with 2 X's. "My first ever memory of the internet was in year 2 in British school system. I had the internet and all its wonder explained to me as a 6-year-old and was given the opportunity to use a search engine to find anything. The one computer in the school that had an internet connection had an internet demonstration day for parents, students, visitors, etc. When presented with such vast capability, I said, 'A blue and red penguin.' No results found." Username Endadwigan writes, "I'm fairly young, so I don't really remember not having the internet, but I remember my first memory of it. Not sure how that works, but it does. In any case, my father wanted to know the baseball score, and he was in the kitchen, so I was told to go to redsox.com. I tried everything, but I could not do it. I tried capital R red space, capital S socks.com, lowercase red space, lowercase socks.com, capital red space, capital socks.com, red space, socks space, dot space, com, pretty much everything except redsox.com. And finally, Car1213 writes, my dad brought home the terminal with that phone patch in 1985. He dialed in and got the weather on the little green dot matrix readout. I think it was an illuminated dot matrix printout, though it could have been a plain single-line LCD. For time reference, we had just got the Apple IIe. Now, if you want to send in a text memory allocation, send it into oldwideweb@gmail.com and we'll read it in a future episode. Dude, check out my sweet progs. Hello, and welcome to a fully packed edition of Progs. First up is a downloadable game for Windows, Mac, and Linux that kind of calls back to the BBS story we did a couple weeks ago. It's called Digital: A Love Story, and the website describes it as a computer mystery romance set 5 minutes into the future of 1988. So basically, to start off with, you've gotten a modem and one of your dad's friends sends you a dialer program so you can access a BBS. You start messaging back and forth with the girl and then it gets complicated. But it's a really fun game. It's a quick play too. I played through it in about an hour, and you can find it at bit.ly/BBS game. Next up, we have a file that's available through Wikimedia called the Timeline of Web Browsers. Now, basically, it's a big SVG graphic, a big timeline of all of the internet browsers and how they all branched off and came back together, and it's a really cool way to see how the popularity of different browsers has come and gone and how one browser became another. But, you know, if you want your internet history, this is a really good place to go to find out, you know, who was using what browser when, and what development teams went on to work on other browsers. For example, it shows how Netscape Navigator eventually forked off and became what we have today as Firefox. Now you can find that at bit.ly/browser history. And finally, we have this really cool application that Rackspace put up called the Evolution of HTML. Now, basically, it's a cool little Flash application where it goes from 1991 to 2010 and shows you all of the major developments in the HTML language. If you are a web designer, web programmer, you're going to find some good information here. At least, you get to know your history a little bit. And it kind of ends on a joke, too. There's a future section where it says, so what's next? And then it says, in 2057, the internet will be beamed directly into your brain from the cloud. We strongly recommend ad blocking software. And you can find the evolution of HTML at bit.ly/HTML timeline. Welcome back. Now it's time for our old website of the week. Now, this website, it's still constantly updated. It's still pretty new, but it was actually founded back in 1999 by Douglas Adams. It's called H2G2, which stands for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it's the guide to life, the universe, and everything written by you. Like I said, it was founded in 1999 by Douglas Adams, took over by the BBC in 2001, and it's a bit like Wikipedia, but more in the spirit of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy from the books. Unfortunately, it's not going to be around for much longer. In January of this year, the BBC announced that they'd be disposing of H2G2 due to the $34 million budget cut to BBC Online's budget. But for now, you can still get there and still check it out. You can find it at bbc.co.uk/H2G2. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 7. I wanted to point out a brand new way to get the podcast. Now, if you go to Podcaster without an E, that's PODCASTR, podcaster.com/oldwideweb, you can use the Podcaster app to bookmark where you are in the podcast between the website and all iOS devices. No app install required, just add an icon to your home screen and you're good to go. You can start listening on your computer and continue while you're on the go where you left off. Now, again, you can find this at podcasterwithoutthee.com/oldwideweb. You can get all our past episodes at oldwideweb.org or by searching for Old Wide Web in iTunes. You'd like to be on the podcast, wouldn't you? If you want to, go ahead and shoot us a 1 to 2 minute audio file with your earliest online memory at oldwideweb@gmail.com, and I'll use you in memory allocation. As we did in this episode, I'm collecting text entries too, and once I get enough of those, we'll do another episode with all text user submissions. You can send those to oldwideweb@gmail.com as well. And any story ideas, feedback, suggestions can also be sent to oldwideweb@gmail.com, or you can use the contact form on the website. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at oldwidewebpod, and you can follow me. My handle's @BillMeeks. Now, as long as Mr. T doesn't eat my balls, I'll be back here with you next week on the Old Wide Web.